let's take a look at this portrait of Ginevra di Benci by Leonardo da Vinci. It was done in the 1470s, and Leonardo was still just an apprentice in Master Verrocchio's workshop when he did this, so it's an early work. But even in this early work, we can see some clues of things that will make him famous not too long from now. First of all, he shows this beautiful young girl, and she was beautiful. She had 10 poems and 2 sonnets written about her because of her beauty. But he shows her in a typical triangular kind of shape. And he shows her looking directly out at the viewer. This was very new because up until that time, women usually were portrayed looking away, downward, or being demure. Here she looks right at us, engaging us. Now, because she was, this is probably a wedding portrait of this 16-year-old girl, we have some clues here that it could be so, because Leonardo gives us some very clever symbolism here. Her name is Ginevra, and that is very similar to the word Ginepro, which is the Italian word for juniper. And indeed, if we take a look in the background here, we can see some evidence of the juniper plant behind. And the juniper plant was a symbol of chastity, which was really quite appropriate for a girl who was just getting married. But let's take a look at some areas right here. This is where we see some evidence of Leonardo's coming interest. These delicate curls, done with very, very fine brushes, are similar, if you look at them, to the kind of rippling waves that you'd find in roiling water that is cascading. And we know throughout his life that Leonardo was interested in the movements of water. So if we look here, instead of thinking of hair, why don't we start thinking of waves or running water? The other thing that's interesting about this painting is that Leonardo is going to start to give us these beautiful distances. For example, if we take a look in this area here, there's some things he does with the elements of art that make this look very, very distant. If you've read the book Art Decoded, or you've gone to the Studio Codex page, you are able to find out how artists use the elements of art to create certain ideas for the viewer. For example, if we take a look at her garments here, we see that there's a predominance of warm reddish browns. They're the same kind of warm colors in her hair. Warm colors come forward to our eye, and cool colors, like we see in the background, tend to move away from our eye, and so we have an illusion here just with color about the distance in the background here. Another thing that's going to be of interest is the delicacy with which Leonardo is going to paint. For example, here we see that colors slowly, softly dissolve into one another. The figure here is very crisp along the edges. She's closer to us, so we can see better detail. But here things begin to fade out. This is called atmospheric perspective, where the thickness of the atmosphere, the very air, makes these portions appear far in the distance. But this delicate treatment here also is going to be something that Leonardo will develop called sfumato, S-F-U-M-A-T-O, which is this wonderful blending that creates illusions of mystery in space. We can tell that he worked very diligently to create this kind of gentle transition of color. Now let's take a little closer look here in this nice detail shot in this area we've just been talking about. He's blending these colors here gently, and I think if we look carefully enough, right around here, there's something really exciting that we can see. If we look in this area, just right above where this this distant hill is. In this area here, we can actually see Leonardo da Vinci's fingerprints. Here's where he's actually using his fingers to dab this paint gently, gently, and help transition it into the area around it. Leonardo's portrait of Ginevra di Benci is only about 14 by 15 inches. That's not very imposing compared to a lot of other great paintings nearby in the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. But I'm sure you'll want to put it on your must-see list, not just because you've now learned how to look in detail and can appreciate it with your discerning eye, but it's also the only work by Leonardo that you'll see in North America. Using your discerning eye, you'll be able to enjoy Ginevra and all the other great artworks in museums you visit from now on.